So if God is an honest God, why do we think we cannot be honest with him? You know, every time I sit down to record these videos, I feel so awkward. How are you? I thank you. Thank you for coming back to Chapter 29 podcast. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, welcome to episode 2. This is officially episode 2. We have the intro, we have episode 1. And before I get into anything else, first things first, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for everything in whatever way, in the smallest way, whatever you have done. I just wanted to say thank you. Last episode, we spoke about coming to Christ as you are and feeling you need to clean yourself up before you come to God. I have to get my act together. I have to do this before I come to God. We dived into why it is that we don't have to clean ourselves up before we come to God. We come to God because we are called as we are. We come as we are. So for this episode, we're going to dive into something that we touched last episode. We spoke about being honest with God and how we feel like a lot of the times we cannot be honest with God for whatever reason. I've had times in my life where something happened and I felt as if I couldn't be honest with God. So I held it in for a very long time, but I'm going to give a little bit more of that testimony. There's a few things we're going to unpack today. We're going to talk about what honesty is not and what honesty is. How we view God with our societal misunderstanding and misrepresentation of honesty, and how we see God through that blurred lens of what we have been taught that honesty is. Dangers of not being honest with God, the benefits of being honest in a relationship, and then we're going to tie that into the benefits of having an honest relationship with God. The second to last thing we're going to dive into, how being honest with God helps us to be honest with ourselves, and people in the Bible who were honest with God, honest about their emotions, honest about what they were going through, how they were feeling, and stuff like that. Without further ado. So, the first thing that we want to touch on, understanding what true honesty is and what it's not. So we're going to talk about what it's not first. We have this idea of what honesty is. We may think of honesty as this brash, harsh, I'm going to tell you as it is. Oh, I'm going to tell her, I'm going to tell him. Although it's straightforward, we think it often comes with disrespect or harshness. We have this societal view of honesty. When we have this societal view of honesty, or we have this flawed misrepresentation, misinterpretation of honesty, we often think that that can only go linear, that can only go from human to human. And because we tend to exhibit what we perceive as honesty as something that it's not, we often think that we cannot be honest with God. So if God is an honest God, why do we think we cannot be honest with him? It's because of the way that we view honesty, or the way that we have received it, or even sometimes the way that we have demonstrated it. Sometimes honesty is not easy, but it's necessary. We don't deliver it or receive it in the best way because we're flawed, we're humans, we are not perfect beings. And so then we tend to not view honesty in the best way. We're afraid to be honest because we don't know how to be honest. We're going to go into what honesty is. So this says that honesty is the moral character of being truthful, sincere, and free from deceit. Let me give that again, but I'm going to give it in my own words. Honesty is something that comes from a moral character. And it's not something that comes from the character of deceit or with the intention to blur the truth or to make the truth something that it's not. And if you make the truth something that it's not the truth. So oftentimes we may not have received or given honesty with the most sincere intentions, with the absence of deceit, without arrogance, without, pompousness, without pride, without anger, without trying to hurt someone else or someone else trying to hurt us. See, this is the lens that I should have a glasses, but I don't. And I should put a little bit of mud on the glasses so I can make the point clearer. So imagine I have glasses. Imagine. Let's use our imagination. So we're going to imagine that we have on the glasses, and the glasses has on dirt or mud or something that doesn't belong on there, because obviously it helps you to see. So we're going to imagine that there's mud on the glasses. So we take this glasses, we put it on. This is our honesty glasses. It's going to help us to see things a little bit clearer, right? But there's mud on it. And when we're looking through the glasses, we can see, but we still can't see. We can only see things. We miss this thing that's here. We miss this thing that's here. So when we look at God through those lens of our misconception, misrepresentation, misinterpretation of honesty, we tend to put that on him. And we think that's what he really looks like, not realizing that our honesty glasses are flawed because of our society and our system that we view honesty through. I'm going to give my testimony. So there was a moment in my life where something happened. I think I was around the age of 12 years old. I was taken advantage of by someone that was in a leadership position. For years, I was not honest with God. I held in or held back how I felt towards God about what had happened. Fast forward, I was about 22, give or take. I was studying in Spain and I was looking through this window. I couldn't sleep. I was having insomnia. It was just a time of my life where I was just troubled mentally. There was a situation where I had lost my grandpa, and I was in this place where I felt like all of this emotions that I had towards God, it was just bottled up. It was bottled up. I don't know what it was. I never even looked to see what it was. I was just bottling up, a lot of these emotions that it was geared towards God. For some reason, I was scrolling through my phone and there was this guy that was talking to this lady, and he said, "Don't you think that God is big enough to handle our emotions?" And I realized at that point I was not honest with God for a lot of years. For a very long time, I wasn't honest with God. I have emotions that I didn't explain to him, that I didn't tell him about, that I was just keeping it inside. I was not expressing myself. So I am an artist, so I usually express myself through art and poetry. And some of my poems, they were really dark and it had a lot of pain behind it. But I wouldn't express to God that pain. I would just keep it quiet. Just, I wouldn't say much to him. I didn't tell him that I was angry. I didn't tell him I was happy. I didn't really say much. So I went years without having that relationship with God because I wasn't honest with him. And that one particular morning when it was really early, the sun was about to come out in all its glory and all its, shiny stuff. And I was standing up at the window. It was almost as if I had a Daniel moment. Standing up, I was in the attic. I was living in the attic. I had three other roommates. And I was just standing by this lonely window where the sun was about to rise. And I told God, I'm going to be honest with you. I felt as if he weren't there. This thing happened when I was 12 and I felt like he wasn't there. But that was just the beginning of the honesty because I wasn't honest with him about everything. But I began to be honest with him. So the habits of keeping everything suppressed, keeping everything in, it was still there. But over time, I would kind of be honest with him a little bit more and a little bit more. As I started being honest with God, I feel like that was the point where things may not seem like it was going up, but I believe that, sometimes people say you have to hit rock bottom before you go up. Or it was that moment. I don't know quite how to explain that too much yet, but it was the the pivot. It was time for things to start taking a different turn. It didn't look like that on the outside, but on the inside, I believe things started to change because I started actually talking to God, like just talking to God instead of not saying anything at all. It was a few years after that when I started to actually talk to God a little bit more. I realized his presence a little bit more. I had suicidal ideation, but he saved me from me. He saved me from the enemy. He saved me from something that, was going to destroy me. There was one moment when I was standing in my room and I said, God, I'm going to need a therapist because I can't afford one right now. So will you please be my therapist for the time being? And I'm assuming he said yes. But I believe he was listening. So I started talking and I said, okay, we're going to have our first session. And I just started talking and I said, I'm going to go back way to the beginning, not having the presence of my dad as I would have liked. And me and my dad are cool, but the presence, it wasn't as much as I craved, as much as I wanted his presence to be there. And I said, we're going to go back to that. So I started talking and then I started talking about how that made me feel and unpacking all of that. And then for a quick moment, I paused and he said, I have adopted you. I've adopted you now. I'm your dad. It was like me being honest with God. It did something. I'm not gonna lie. It did something. But then I was honest with him about what happened to me when I was 12. When someone took advantage of me that was in a leadership position. And this person was in the church also. Now I'm proclaiming Christ. And so even within the place of worship, you will have individuals that have been sent by the enemy to deter you or deter others or to cause or wreak havoc. And I'm here today proclaiming Christ because I know now that it was not God who orchestrated that. And when I was talking to God, I was telling him, I'm going to be honest with you about that. I felt as if you weren't there to protect me. I felt sad. I felt like you may have abandoned me. I felt all these raw, uncomfortable, difficult, hard feelings that they weren't easy to understand. There was guilt there because I felt this way about God. Because in my mind, I'm like, I know God is all good. I know he's a good God. He's a good God. He's a great God. He is the only God. I know who he is, right? But there's these emotions that I have. I felt abandoned. I'm like, I don't understand why I'm feeling this way when I know God is this way. What is happening? I couldn't even understand the emotions that I was feeling. And so I started to tell him. As I was sincerely, honestly letting him know the emotions that I felt, there was a pause again. I think it was like a second. It was a stillness. It was as if I felt or heard a glimpse of the pain that he felt when that happened. And the pain that he felt was way more than the pain that I could have even came close to. So the amount of pain that I would have felt, and I'm thinking in my mind, like it's the most pain, it's the pinnacle, the tip of the mount, the tallest mountain of pain. And then I look around and then there's this gigantic, humongous, if there's something that's even greater than the greatest mountain of pain that I cannot imagine, that's what he felt. In that moment when I was honest with God, when I was vulnerable, when I was respectfully, sincerely, honestly, just saying how I really felt at that time when that had happened, when I was 12, like going back into 12-year-old self and just remembering the emotions that I was feeling and the emotions that I was carrying for so many years and the feeling of abandonment and all of these feelings. When I was honest with God, it felt as if I was giving him the opportunity to be honest with me, which it doesn't sound right, because it's like, I don't have to give God up. Oh, God is God. Like, To think of giving him the opportunity to do something just doesn't even sound like something a human being should even, say. But he's a relational God. And when you're vulnerable with him, it's a relationship. It's a personal relationship. And when you're vulnerable with him, when you're honest with him, when you're giving it all to him, when you're telling him all of this and you're communicating that with him, it's almost as if you guys are sitting down, you having a conversation on a bench in a park. He is listening as you pause, or as you're finished and you've gotten all out. He then helps you to see something from another side. He helps you to understand something from another side. It's it's like he's giving you wisdom, or he's giving you knowledge and understanding into his feelings, which he doesn't need to do, because okay, there's this guy, his name is Job, and his story's in the Bible. And so all of these things are happening to him. He's losing his family. He's losing all his cattle, his he's just losing everything. Left, right, center, everything. And he's wondering, what's going on. Not he's wondering, he's more than wondering what's going on. So if you want to read that story, get a Bible, or go on YouTube, listen to the book of Job, or buy a Bible, or if you have a Bible, open the Bible and read the book of Job. But he's losing everything. He's honest with God. He's telling God his genuine feelings, his everything. He's not, what Job doesn't do is completely, it just go silent and not say anything to God. Job was just telling God how he felt, these emotions that he was experiencing, but he was going to God with them. He gives Job, let Job say what he got to say. And then at the end, he speaks to Job. They have this dialogue, they have this conversation, they're communicating. And we see something so special about being honest with God that it compares to nothing, I'm telling you. What honesty is, it's respectful, it's sincere, it's done with love, it's done with good intentions, it's done with the hope of the other person understanding you, when you understanding the other person. It's done with the mind of gaining understanding, knowledge, and insight to make the relationship grow. If honesty is that, then when there's a lack of it, it does something to hurt the relationship. So we're going to talk a little bit about the dangers of not being honest with God. When we're not honest, we don't give the relationship a fighting chance to grow. We don't give the relationship an honest chance to really grow and flourish. When it comes to our relationship with God, the only thing that can happen is that we become better people. We become better versions of ourselves. We become the people that He envisioned us to be. It doesn't happen all together at one poof time. It doesn't happen in that way. And the more you're honest with Him, is the more that relationship grows, and it's given a chance to grow. So when we're not honest with Him, or even honest in relationships, the relationship doesn't have a fighting chance of growing. So with the dangers, we have the perks. I'm going to get into the benefits of being honest in a relationship and having an honest relationship. We have safe spaces. I could be safe with this person could be safe with me. And we have this honesty, which may take a while to build, and yeah, that's okay. When we have this, it forms emotional intimacy. It builds trust. It actually reduces stress and gives you less anxiety. It encourages personal growth. That was something that we were kind of touching on before. It really promotes and encourages personal growth. Wherever you have an honest relationship, it's almost as if You can see the things that you need to work on. You can see the things that that are good and do some improvement, the things that don't need to be there anymore. And then you grow. It creates respect. It builds on respect. It creates it and builds on it. It creates room for genuine communication. And when we have these components and vulnerability, oh, how could I forget vulnerability? When you have these components, it makes space for safety. Safety can thrive. Safety can grow. As humans, we're limited. We're all flawed and we are limited. We don't all have the capacity to handle all of everyone. We don't even have the capacity to handle all of ourselves. Sometimes I'm like, girl, can you stop overthinking for 5 seconds? We don't even have the capacity to hold the full version of ourselves. But God He has the ability, He has the capacity to hold us, the full version of us, the entirety of us, our mishaps, our mistakes. And we as humans, we're limited, but He's not. He's not. And when we're honest with Him, He wants to be able to hold all of us. He wants, let me say, come as you are. He said, come to me, all ye that are heavy laden. All, you know? And as we even begin, you don't have to be the whole amount of honest in 1 hour. You don't have to, in 1 hour, squeeze in the whole lifespan of, you don't have to do it all in one time. Even if you just start by one thing, just one thing, and keep it going, and ask Him to help you to be honest or to have an honest relationship with Him. And it will happen. It will happen. The desire is there. He'll work with you. Trust me, He will. Because it took me, let's say, 22, it took me over 7 years, 8 years to even get to a point where I could tell people to be honest with God. Because 8 years ago, that's when me being honest with God began. I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago. And so it takes time. It's not going to be one thing. But with being honest and having that honest relationship, the trust is built. The emotional intimacy is built. The communication, the lines of communication, it's stronger. The stress and the anxiety reduces. So there's a text in the Bible that says, I'm going to paraphrase, we're worrying so much and we can't even add an inch or 2 to our height by worrying. As a matter of fact, we shrink. Because when we stress, we walk slouched and our faces are sad, and it brings us down. And even if it doesn't bring you down physically, well, eventually if we stress too much, it has an effect on the body. But when we stress so much, it just brings brings our countenance down. And I know that firsthand because people see me just stress for just nothing most times. And so when we build that relationship with God, and when we have the honesty, when we introduce that honesty into the relationship with God, we grow. We may not grow in terms of 6'4", 6'5", but we grow spiritually, we grow mentally, we grow emotionally, we grow in ways that we would not grow if we're not honest. So the last point that I would like to kind of dive into a little bit is being honest with God helps us to be honest with ourselves. Being honest with God helps us to be honest with ourselves. As humans, when we are able to have an accurate look at ourselves, we know where we need to grow. We know what we need to ask for. It's like you're going to the supermarket to go grocery shopping, your monthly or weekly grocery shopping, food shopping, just call it that. And you look into the fridge and you look in your pantry or you look wherever it is that you store your food and you look to see what you need. Do you need rice? Do you need flour? You look and you see the things that you don't have, the things that you use often, and the things that you need to get. Do you need some milk? You need some milk. I can help. But we look into the fridge and we see what we need. So we know what we're going to the store to buy. We buy it. Sometimes we come back with things that we don't need. TMI. But we go, we get what we need, we come back. And we function for the rest of the week. We could cook, stuff like that. When we're honest with God, we are able to look within ourselves and understand ourselves a little bit more. So that's a humongous plus. That's a huge plus of being able to be honest with God, having that honesty in a relationship with God. Because he's already being honest with us, or he's already waiting. That honesty helps us to understand who we are even more. And when we understand who we are even more, then I realize, oh, this triggers me. This triggers me. Why I feel triggered? Why do I feel triggered? Why is this triggering me? Why does this have the ability to get me upset? Why am I not able to control this thing? And then you start realizing that you're understanding yourself a little bit more and a little bit more. That honesty with God, I'm telling you, it is more powerful. It is way more powerful than we understand. This honesty with God, this when we are honest with God, it does wonders. I'm telling you, it does wonders. And to go back again, honesty does not include disrespect. Even if in the beginning we don't do it correctly, but we do it with the right intention and the right heart, over time we understand. Over time it grows. Over time we get what being honest with God looks like. Because with a genuine heart and with sincerity, he understands it. And over time, as the relationship grows, so will your understanding of the honesty. But within ourselves, we get a glimpse of who we really are. And that within itself is not the easiest thing to even face, because we see the good and we see the bad. And the bad is not easy sometimes as humans for us to even acknowledge or for us to come to terms with. But then that's why he's there. That's why he's there. So then now we know and we see the good and the bad. We understand that only him, he's the only one that can help us with the bad. And he's the only one that can turn the bad into something that only God could turn it into. I'm gonna be so honest, it's such a mind-blowing thing sometimes when I think about it. When I think about how God transforms and how God takes every little thing, any little thing and every little thing, even our bad habits, and turns it into something for his glory, I don't understand it. I don't I don't I don't even understand it. It's like you used to be addicted to this thing and then you overcome and then you come face to face with that. There's certain things that we can't come face to face with without God. I'll be honest with you, he's the one that goes face to face with it. We see it for ourselves. But then when we see this thing and we realize he used this for a testimony, he used this to help somebody else. When you're honest with him and you give him authority, you give him control, you give him the ability to work within that relationship and to move and to show up as who he is, as God. We know ourselves better. We know Him better. We know others. We understand others. We have more compassion for others. We have more compassion for ourselves. We have more grace for others. We have more grace for ourselves. We have more wisdom. We have more understanding. We gain more knowledge about who we are, why we're here, who is God. There's so much that comes with just being honest with Him. Our God is an honest God. Sometimes I lose words and I can't find the words because the emotions that are felt with what I'm trying to say is so deep that putting it into words sometimes feels like a disservice. It almost feels as if there are no words that could come close to this truth, this feeling, this understanding. And because there are no words that could come close to it, I could do my best and the Holy Spirit is going to do His work in me. But for you to understand it for yourself, you must start being honest with God. So we're going to go practical now. How do I be honest with God when I don't even feel like there's anything to be honest about? Have you for some time felt cold towards God or indifferent or feeling like He didn't show up for you at some point when you felt like He should have, or He didn't come through for something that you felt like He should have come through for you for? Or have you never had a relationship with Jesus? Have you never had a relationship with Him? I don't even know where to begin. How do I even begin? What do I need to be honest with Him about? If you fall within this bracket, or if you fall within not knowing how to be honest with God, do this. Ask Him, God, how do I be honest with you? Is there something that I need to be honest with you about? If there's something that I need to be honest with you about, can you help me to be honest with you about it? Can you move on my heart? Can you put it in my mind? Can you help me to move to a place where I can be honest with you? Can you move me to a place to just start understanding what honesty with you even looks like? Take these practical steps. If there are other steps that the Holy Spirit has impressed on you, then, ask Him. If you don't know where to begin, just ask Him how to be honest with Him. There were two other people I wanted to mention in the Bible that were honest with God, and one is Hannah. So Hannah, she was married to, I don't remember his name, but I'm going to put it here. She was married to, yes, she really wanted a child. And she used to go to the temple and pray and ask God for a child. She said, listen, God, if you give me this child, I'm going to return him to you. The fact that she prayed for a son, it's like sometimes we're afraid to tell God, God, sometimes I feel a little lonely. And I know you're here with me, but there are moments when I'm lonely. It's like rather than not taking that to Him, sometimes we just shut down, we not say anything to Him. But we see Hannah take this request that in her time would have been something shameful because she didn't have any kids, and at that time if you don't have kids and if you're not able to have children or conceive, they think you've been cursed, and if you're not married, it's like all of this, it was societal at that time. They would ridicule you. You would get mocked for not being able to have a child. And she told God that she wants a child, and she had a child, and that child went on to be a great prophet for God. But the part where she took that concern, she took that desire to God. She was honest with Him. She poured out her heart to Him. And another person that we see be honest with God is David. David was honest with God. I think it was Psalms 51 or 52, where he was honest with God about how he felt. He was just honest with God. And we hear stories about David, his mistakes and everything. But I want to let you know that God sees and God knows exactly how you're feeling. These are just a few examples of people in the Bible who were honest with God, but I'm telling you that you could have your own story about how you were honest with God. I will have my story about how I was honest with God and how God was able to communicate with me. So I'm just going to encourage you today to be honest with God and just to make that step. We're going to leave a Bible verse here. Psalms 62, verse 8. Trust in him at all times, my people, you people. Pour out your hearts to him. Pour. He didn't say sprinkle. He didn't say just pour out your hearts to him. For God is our refuge. Psalm 62, verse 8. And so that's just what I want to encourage you with today. I'm going to say a quick prayer for you because, we end with a quick prayer. Dear kind and Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for life, health, strength. I pray that the person on the other side of this screen will hear, will understand that you want us to be honest with you. You want them to be honest with you, your daughter, your son. I pray that you will give them the courage, give them the heart, give them the mind to be able to be honest with you. Give them that one word, that one sentence to say, to write, or to speak, or to feel, whatever it is. I pray that they will be able to be honest with you. Give them that courage to do so. I pray that you will help them in their walk with you. I pray that they will find you, that you're seeking for them and they will find you. But I pray that their relationship with you will be developed and they will have an honest relationship with you, that there will be a testimony to somebody else. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Guys, thank you so much. And I pray that you will just continue to come as you are.